Picture the early 1980s, when the world of rallying stood upon the edge of a revolution it did not yet fully understand. For decades, the formula had been simple. Power sent to the rear wheels, a brave hand on the wheel, and the courage to dance a car sideways across gravel and ice at speeds that defied all reason. But something new had arrived from the forests of Germany. Audi had come to the sport with a car that drove all four of its wheels at once, and on the loose surfaces of the World Championship, it seemed almost unbeatable. In Turin, at the great Italian house of Lancia, the engineers refused to surrender. They would answer four-wheel drive not with imitation, but with defiance. A lightweight, mid-engined machine sending its power to the rear alone, built to prove that skill and balance could still conquer sheer traction. They called it the 037, and this is the story of the last rear-wheel drive car ever to win the crown. To build such a car, Lancia turned to men who understood both the racing line and the drawing board, borrowing the heart of a road-going beta and reimagining it entirely for war upon the stages. At its center sat a supercharged engine, mounted just behind the driver, chosen for the instant, savage response that a turbocharger of the day could not yet promise. The body was clothed in lightweight panels, the whole machine kept as slender and as agile as the rules would allow, and it needed a driver to match it. A man who did not merely drive, but calculated. That man was Walter RÖHRL, the tall, precise German who read a stage the way a scholar reads a page, cool where others were wild and utterly without fear on the edge of the impossible. With him beside a co-driver he trusted, and a car that demanded everything, Lancia now had its weapon. What it needed was a season to prove it. And so the 1983 season opened, the stage set for a duel unlike any the sport had known. The elegant Italian challenger against the all-conquering Audi from the north. The battle would be fought not over a single weekend, but across the whole face of the world, from the snowbound mountain passes of Monte Carlo to the baking gravel of the south. Lancia understood, better than anyone, that they could not simply outpower their rival. They would have to outthink them. On the fast, loose gravel, where four-driven wheels found their grip, the Audi held every advantage, and RÖHRL knew it well. But on tarmac, where balance and precision ruled, and on the dry, hard-packed roads where clever hands could keep a light car dancing, the 037 could still strike, and strike hard. What followed was not merely a contest of machines, but a season-long game of cunning, where Lancia chose their battlegrounds with the patience of generals, determined to win the war one carefully chosen rally at a time. The season opened, as it so often did, in the mountains above Monte Carlo, where the roads climb into snow and drop again into dry, glistening tarmac within the space of a single stage. Here, more than anywhere, cunning could beat brute force. Lancia gambled everything on tire choice, on the reading of the weather, on RÖHRL's uncanny ability to know precisely how much grip lay beneath him at any given moment. And it worked. Where the Audi struggled to place its power on dry, twisting asphalt, the little Italian car flowed, light and alive, threading each corner with a precision that seemed almost cruel. RÖHRL won the Monte. The first blow had been struck, and it had been struck cleanly. But a single victory does not make a champion. The war had only just begun, and the roads ahead would grow longer, harder, and far less forgiving. From the glamour of the Riviera, the fight moved on, and Lancia carried its momentum south to the sun-baked roads where their light, agile car could still find an edge. Portugal came next, and again the Italians answered. On tarmac and on the smooth, hard-packed surfaces that suited the 037, RÖHRL and his team pressed their advantage without mercy, choosing when to attack and, just as importantly, when to hold something back. But the season was long, and the calendar was cruel, for it was studded with rallies made for the Audi. Great sprawling gravel events where four-driven wheels would drag the German car clear of everything behind it. Lancia knew this. They had always known this. And so their strategy was not to win everywhere, but to win where they could, and to lose as little as possible where they could not. a careful, calculated dance across the whole of the world. Then came the reckoning that Lancia had feared all along. The gravel. On the loose, punishing roads of the great endurance rallies, the Audi came into its own, its four-driven wheels clawing at surfaces where the little Italian car could only slither and fight for every meter. And here, the numbers turned against Lancia. On the wide, fast tracks of the north, and on the rough and endless stages that seemed to go on forever, the German machine simply pulled away, and there was nothing RÖHRL or his team could do to answer it wheel for wheel. But this was where the true genius of the campaign revealed itself, for Lancia had never intended to win these rallies, only to survive them, to finish, to gather points where victory was impossible, and to keep the gap from ever growing too wide. For a season is not decided in a single stage, but measured out slowly, rally by rally, point by point, and Lancia was counting every one. And so a rhythm settled over the season, a strange, tense pattern that both sides came to understand all too well. On the tarmac, Lancia struck like a blade, precise and merciless, taking the wins that were rightfully theirs. On the gravel, they bent without breaking, running second, third, gathering the points that would keep them alive when others thought them beaten. It was not the racing of a team that expected to dominate. It was the racing of a team that had done its arithmetic and knew exactly what it needed. Behind the wheel, Walter RÖHRL became the perfect instrument of that plan, attacking when the road allowed, restraining himself when instinct screamed at him to push harder. For he understood, perhaps better than any driver of his generation, that a championship is won not by the fastest heart, but by the coolest head. And as the summer wore on, the two machines traded blows across the continent. Each victory answered, each gap opened, and then quietly, patiently closed again. By the season's closing rounds, the mathematics had become a kind of drama all its own. Every organizer's start list, every timing sheet, was now read like a ledger. Profit and loss, measured in seconds and in points. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, the balance began to tip in the direction of the little red car from Turin. Because for all the Audi's power, for all its four-driven wheels tearing at the gravel, it could not always be trusted to finish. And finishing was the very thing Lancia had built its whole campaign around. Reliability, discipline, the refusal to throw away a single hard-won point in the pursuit of glory that was not needed. The 037 was fragile in the eyes of many, and yet, when it mattered most, it kept running while others faltered. And so the championship, which everyone had assumed would fall to Germany, began instead to lean quietly, stubbornly toward Italy. And then came the reckoning. In the mountains and the forests of the closing rounds, where the arithmetic would finally be settled once and for all, RÖHRL drove with the calm of a man who knew the ground beneath him, husbanding the car, coaxing it home, refusing every temptation to gamble what he did not need to risk. The Audis pushed, and here and there they stumbled. A mechanical failure, a moment lost, a point surrendered. That was all it took. For a title fought this close is not decided by the grandest of victories, but by the errors the other side cannot help but make. And when the final sums were done, the numbers fell in favor of Turin, a triumph built not on brute force, but on patience, precision, and a strategy that had never once wavered from its purpose.